Okay, so then, remember how we did that the other day? I pinned. Pin this one here.
Stan must have done that, or you did, because I don't. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very handy little thing, and it was very smart what we thought of it, or one of the ones that we have, we thought of during the pandemic.
Okay, I'm gonna mind the.
Yeah, and yeah. You should be able to get that, so it's not.
Oh, how do I get that off?
Yeah.
No, I gotta get it. Okay.
So kind of stay there a little bit. Where's that coming from?
It's info down.
Oh, you have to post the Cisco app then.
And that one.
Do a control of the.
What?
5:32. Oh, short.
Yeah, so.
It's not gonna be a 3-hour conversation. Hey, you feel good right now?
I didn't know if you had these open or. I don't know. So when did you still? The name, what are they? What do you want to see that? Go for the, yeah. It does.
Hey, how we doing?
I'm sorry, did they ease it?
No clue. Oh, maybe it's, I don't know.
Huh.
No, her Tasha would have gotten it in.
Maybe Tim came there, maybe.
Right here. Yeah. And we've got the owl. And then, we're not sure where the eagle came from. But, if you use it or not, Tim may have came in. And did that, or we could post it. Tasha, this is Shelley. Hi, nice to meet you. She works in our department, Shelley. Nice to meet you. So she, her and I work in community development. Okay. Awesome. Help you, whatever you need. So, we can do a couple of things. So here's what we brought, and I don't know if you wanted to do. Okay. I could put one in each. Yeah, okay. Put a marker or something. That's a great idea. I think each. How they get to know each other. And then you want to do something like this, if you want to get. Oh, probably I should do that. Okay. Yeah, because that's right. It was here even. Very long. Please. Sit wherever you want. Ready? Oh, yeah, okay. We're pretty informal. All right. Yeah. And tell me your name again. Sophie. All right, here, I'm gonna give you one of these. We're gonna probably do name first. You just want everybody else? Thank you.
There is no one parked out front. I parked out front.
In the circle.
In the circle, yeah, it says 2 hours. but
If you'd like, this is up to you. You can pull in where the old 24-hour fitness is. You know, where the parking garage is. And if you follow the ramp up around, you can park on the second level if you'd like, and then you just have to go straight out with your.
Oh, neat. Okay,
Or you can park on the first floor, either one.
okay,
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
I just-
building is fine.
yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I didn't like leave at 8:30 and I'm like, oh, it's 3 hours, you're towed, you know?
I love your optimism, but I don't think we're gonna be here 3 hours.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, we should have sooner.
And what we had to do too. I'll get you.
I just thought it would be helpful if you're mentioned that.
And then so, city attorney is right here. You know, I put it right into yours, so it'll be flow right.
Oh my God, you're so great. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, where did it came from? That's excellent.
Excellent.
Love it.
We have, you want to.
Okay. You think one even. You bring them to even. Okay.
Is Glenna still in Scotland, Ireland? I can't remember.
She's still in Dublin, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Hi, how are you? I'm Sherry. Wherever you want to sit, I'll let you pick it. I'll go out for your many colors. You're not, where are you? I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah, we can bring it, we can put it on the other side of here. They can think we have. Will you? You know, where would you like? You can worry about it. That since you're gonna do pink.
So.
Are you Nancy?
I'm Nancy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And you're on the EHA board.
I am, yeah, that's what I, and really.
And
I think I wrote it all, but.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Are you?
I don't know if you're familiar with me. Do you have a certain like?
Okay.
That's great.
I just want to sit.
Over there, like, yeah.
So I'm gonna sit next to Carrie, that's not fair.
Doing all of the agent, anyway, I don't know, still with that.
Yeah.
I might consider that has a really funny part too, I don't know if you know her, we should have. Hi.
Hi, I'm purposely not gonna sit next to you.
Okay, that's fine, because I'll just try.
We're kind of spread.
Okay. Who made those cookies, by the way, in the tin?
So Kim and Allie,
Oh my goodness, thank you, I was like, these are like homemade.
right, they are. I love space, so.
Oh, that's amazing, thank you so much. I got it open, I was like, oh my gosh, this is trouble.
I know,
I
it's
thought it
like,
was gonna be like butter cookies or something that I could.
right.
Somebody else eat.
I know, it's like seven, we brought our top tier cookies too.
Yeah, I did. They're really good.
Good.
And the brownies and then.
They definitely.
Hello. Yeah, finally.
Yeah, it is good. Good.
I'm shocked. Like, oh, that's nice to see you.
Started.
Yeah,
yeah. There's tea back there? There, there's tea in there.
I.
Tea selection is phenomenal. Sherry.
Good to see
Nice
you.
to see you. Sean, nice to see you in person. Tasha, yeah.
Nice to see you in person as well. Lindsay, I'm told that we messaged you, we said and offered lots of.
Yeah, it's, nothing's ever.
Involved, I love that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the follow-up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think they would love to show you.
No, the Cynthia, we've got to put in kind of an R side.
Yeah.
But we've got all the.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking about it. Nice to meet. The division chief, because I don't have a good concept of reading the anymore. He always helps me, but at some point I should make my own contact.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was nice to meet him, and he said anything you want me to contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's gonna be.
Yes. Right, which is perfect, that's the, yeah, division chief, yeah. That is the perfect person for me to have in contact. So
Sure.
if anything, at least I've got a great contact now.
Yeah.
Holiday.
Well, I hope it's-
Yeah, it was a great conversation.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, it said the department leadership too. Head spinning, and I was like.
So they-
Right.
Yeah.
Like you.
Did.
So I had a, like a debrief on
Right.
for 2 weeks or something.
Then it's more on our side, and figure those things out. So yeah, we're just kind of in the waiting.
Okay.
I will get back out to the new, and bring closure to it, probably tomorrow, if not Monday.
Yeah. I already got.
Okay, and now, I don't know, but I appreciate that offer. So
Okay.
actually, that is part of the conversation. Yeah.
So there's, yeah. You're not trying.
Yeah.
No. Well,
Yeah. Very warm, yeah. I was
Yours are all blown back and everything. Yeah, he's our guy. You have them? Yes.
I'm
Sure. And then the building is done.
I've got other wine.
So, we have our conversation.
And then I work the court of housing. And then I with the developers.
So our situation's like we're not. Okay. Because I really.
Do my own, but, and then anybody.
Yeah. me too.
Good, there's things.
For me, it's something that I do.
Okay. Hi, Joe.
Do you guys do a public network or is there,
What about you? Are you a president?
No, I'm a resident.
Yeah.
Well, that's
This is important too.
Yeah.
We've
We've been in our, but our second, you know, before, but I moved in 2012. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah,
They just got
yeah, like in June and
They just need to get.
good. How long has she been out of university? Big. My mom had that, but not to that extent, I guess, or not like negative effects, but.
Yeah, it's amazing. She grew up in moms.
Yeah.
The hospital.
My mother-in-law, her name would be where she would like.
Because all my city manager friends here.
She went in and it.
Yes, yeah. I've been in several times. That was great. They loved it.
Basically, when
I have this, it's actually vegan and it's.
crazy, but she jumps inside.
Like, breast.
So,
More.
she'll mess with them. That's great.
Did you?
And it's not great that I want there.
Yeah. Because we're very, oh, yeah. Because they all. Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what I told her. They're at the. I was ringing the Salvation Army bell. Anytime you.
So, yeah.
Like an actor. Yes. Yeah.
Let's be sunny on payday.
No, no. I'm seeing you walk in.
Right, it's gotta be.
I just.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, you're out. Exactly. And usually it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put my name.
What impressed you all when I was here? Sounds
It's scary. I know if I'm also thinking, I'm gonna put a guy in the background here.
That's where I read it.
With the young one, like, I look at the young ones, like, it's like 22. For a while, like, that was how everybody. Not be really.
Stay right here. I used to be in this area, and I still appreciate it.
Hang out on the deck.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this is something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
I do like it.
For wine? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of.
Really does.
Oh, again, never has. Yeah, never has.
So you don't want to.
Change.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what well, I really haven't. Gentlemen, like I said, I know it well. Every festival is just.
Always has someone. I'd like to have a sign.
Yeah, this is a global issue. That's great.
Get out, I don't little bit.
Yeah, the email had food options. Do you have a good planner?
Yeah. No, it's really.
Well,
I like that.
Yeah.
I would try.
I was really gonna go to green and, fun after 2 hours.
Well. No, it's sitting next to you, that's so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Chelsea Camp. I'm able to become member for District 2. We're going to kick off today's meeting. I'll say a few words. I'll pass it to my colleague Joe Anderson, who's also not only on city council, but our new mayor for 10. And yes, and then I'll pass that to our wonderful and very useful facilitators to get us going for the evening. But I want to start the time check. Is the recording starting? Make sure it starts. Start the recording. Okay.
I apologize.
No, it's okay. I just want to double check before you go. I'm going to start tonight with a lot of gratitude. Thank you so much for being here. You all could be other places, spending your time on other very important things. But the beauty of our democracy is we come together and give our time, our talent, and our treasure to make this thing work together. And I'm just so grateful on Thursday night that you're here with us, addressing one of the biggest challenges that we have in our community. Most of us have our own housing story, our own reason why we care about this issue, whether it's our personal experience trying to buy into the market, the experience of maybe friends or family members or employees or neighbors in the community. And I'm excited to see how we bring together our diverse perspectives to help us find solutions to that fit our community into this challenge. So a little bit of context about why we're here tonight. As you may know, the city in the last couple of years has spent a lot of time talking about housing and housing affordability in our community. We did a housing assessment study just about 2 years ago, and we started it. We got a grant from the state. We got those results last fall, and they showed that we have some pretty significant gaps. You guys had that housing study in your pre-read packet. But when we do a study like that as a city government, and we have all of this data, we have acknowledgement of where we have gaps, the next step is to say, what is our role in addressing those gaps? What is the city's role as a governmental body? What is our role in how we partner with private entities or institutions or developers or nonprofits to help address the needs that we now know we have in our city based on the data and the evidence? And so as we were considering how we might do that, one of the ideas that I presented to my colleagues was a housing affordability task force. How do we bring together a diverse group of residents to help us decide what do we do in Inglewood? There are ideas and policies and recommendations and concepts that people are innovating on across the country to help address these problems. This is not a uniquely Inglewood problem, but we are uniquely Inglewood. We have a unique community here, and it's for us to define and understand what will fit in Inglewood, what makes sense for us. And so out of this process, we really want to hear from you, your recommendations on what you think we should do as a city council and city government as we move forward to address the needs that we know we have in our community. So I'll stop there and just say that that's what our hope out of this is, and our deep gratitude for being here. And I'll let Joe say a few words as well.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Camp captured it well. We're just so thankful for all of you guys giving up your time, not just tonight, but for many months to come, and all the preparation work that's going to go into these meetings. This is a working group. We're going to have to study and understand the context, understand the material that's in front of us, and I'm really excited to have your voices involved in the process. So thank you so much for committing to do this along with us.
Just one note about Joe and I in the meeting and how we will participate. We have been appointed by our fellow colleagues on the city council to be the liaisons to this task force. So our role will really be to observe, to listen, to provide input or context from a council perspective when it makes sense. But you are the task force. This is very much for us to hear what you all are thinking. There will be opportunities over the course of this group's work to maybe vote on things whether they were having disagreement or which recommendation do you want to elevate to the city council. Joe and I are not voting members in those votes. We are observers. We really want to hear what the citizens have to say, but are here to provide any thoughts or input that are helpful along the way, as well as then to communicate back to our colleagues on council on things that we're hearing in this group as it informs future decision making. So you'll hear from us now, but probably not as much moving forward as we get into some of the policy work. The last thing I'll just say is that we were really intentional to appoint a diverse group of people in this room. We have people who were born and raised in this city, and people who are very, very new, people who are employers and people who are employed in the city, with various and varying degrees of background on this topic, with experience or opinion on the path forward. That's by design, it's a feature, not a bug. And we really want you to engage fully, to say exactly how you feel and what you think, and for us to help reach consensus on the things that would be the best fit for us. So since Joe and I are not leading this group, I want to turn it over to our very capable facilitators that we have chosen to help ensure that this process is effective, efficient, and productive. So I'm going to pass it to Tasha Jones, our facilitator.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you. So it's great to be here with all of you, and I'm looking so forward to this adventure that we're going to be on together over the next several months, or certainly throughout the next year. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me, but before I do, I think very importantly, for those of you who are trying to get into the Wi-Fi or from your laptops, I just want you to know, like, you can get onto the free Inglewood Public, so Inglewood Public, correct? Yeah. No password. And no passwords required, passwords needed, sure. And then also, I think it's important to note that feel free to come and go. I think you might have seen the restrooms when you walked in. If you walk out, out toward the door, like it'll be on your left. And then also in the kitchen, just to my right, perhaps your left, you will be able to find some coffee and tea, etc. in the kitchen. Okay. Now, just a little bit about me and Tasha Jones. I'm one of the co-facilitators for your task force. And really my role is going to be just to, help actively listen, help you all actively listen, trying to probe some ideas and brainstorming from the learning that you got, but all with the intention of really focusing on some key ideas that you pulled from that housing assessment. And my colleague, Glenna Norville, she'll also be joining us midway through to help us go from like this grounding phase to really getting into the prioritization phase and the recommendation phase. And so a little background about me, I spent about 20 years in real estate development. I worked on one of the largest urban infill projects in the city of Denver, which is the former Stapleton International Airport site. So I worked for Forest City. And during that time, I spent community relations, government relations, a lot of PR and marketing. And one of my proudest moments was really helping to tell the story about the affordable housing commitment on that project and how important it was, integrating that into the fabric of that mixed use community. That's a little bit about me and why I'm here, how I'm here, and how I look forward to helping you. But next, we want to hear about each of you. So we're going to go around the room. I am going to start with you, Corey. And Corey, if you could kick us off by example of just sharing your name. And I had the pleasure of reading everyone's bio. I'm not sure if everyone else got to read your bio, but perhaps remind us all what your favorite restaurant is at Inglewood. And then please, most importantly, tell us your why for serving on this task force. So Corey, kick us off.
Everybody, I'm Corey Whitaker. I'm the Director of Real Estate for Habitat for Humanity of Metro Denver. I do not live in England. But my favorite Inglewood restaurant, I think it's called Liaisons. It's like in a gas station. Very good. And I'm serving on this task force because I have a strong passion for affordable homeownership housing and the stability that having an affordable home, especially in the ownership, creates in a household, and the rippling effects that stability can have on generations to come. That is faced with a lot of challenges these days. So I'm here to advocate for that and to help guide conversation on how to help encourage that.
I'm Sherry Simpson. My favorite Inglewood restaurant is Cochino Taco. I love their happy hour. My why for serving on this task force is I work in real estate and affordable housing with the Liaisons, and I'm also very passionate about home ownership and affordable housing. I grew up in affordable housing have seen the impact that it has on a family's life, and I think that it's a critical need right now. We're getting, the price of homes continues to increase, and it's becoming a major issue. I'm here to help find a solution.
I'm Kevin Wright. My favorite restaurant is Breakfast Bean. I love that place. The reason I'm here, I want to learn about affordable housing. I want to be a part of helping the city with the task of finding affordable housing, finding a solution for affordable housing, and being a part of the solution. That's my goal, to be here tonight and be on this task force and be with y'all. Well, thank you for having me here. Look forward to working with you. Thank you.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Hugo Weinberger. I'm the president of Citus Real Estate. My favorite restaurant, I'm gonna go with Steak 10. Big fan of lunch there. I own and manage real estate in the Englewood area, and I see a major lack of affordable supply. It's really difficult to bring a project online at a price that ultimately makes sense for somebody who is in the workforce to afford in our city. I think that there's a true missing middle in the market, and I think that there's a lot of interesting ways that we can bring new supply online, permanent housing and transitional housing, and I'm excited to share some of those ideas I have.
Excuse me. So I'm Jay Gilbert. My favorite restaurant would be Frank Pizza King. I'm fortunate enough to live within walking distance of it. So I grew up in Englewood, and I remember when it was much more working class. And that it had a lot of housing stock that was accessible to people that didn't necessarily have, two high-powered careers in one household. My family, me and my wife, we got a house, and we needed help from family. And I think it's important to be open about that because it's not fair. And, but it was, it was the best thing to do for our kids, and it's very good for our kids. It gives them a lot of stability. They get to live near their grandparents and cousins. And I'm interested. So one thing I'm concerned about is that there's sort of a popular idea going around right now everywhere that if we simply strip all zoning regulations away, that somehow the free market will generate affordable housing. And I think that we have not seen that play out in parts of Denver and parts of Englewood. I think it's the R2 zones where some of that's taken place, where older housing, one unit would be replaced by 2 or 3 or 4 units, but each unit costs twice what the house did. So I am interested in ideas like deed restrictions to enforce housing for people making lower AMI than 100%. Nonprofits like Habitat, and on the rental side, interested in like things like tax credit housing for vehicle home ops and stuff. I had a friend who lived there, and it was really nice.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sophie. I have been a renter in Englewood for the past little over 3 years. And I think my favorite restaurant is probably Spicy Basil. It's very close to my house as well. And it's just like such a good pickup go-to when I don't want to cook, but I'm always cooking. And I'm very excited to be on the task force and just, have this engagement with our city and our community and, be involved in this process. I have also lived, the experience of renting and having your rent go up and your income stay the same, and homeownership get just further and further out of reach, even though you feel like you're doing what you need to be doing. And it's something that if we can make it better for us and for our neighbors and, provide affordable options for people, I think it's very exciting and something that I want to help with if I can. So, thank you so much.
You already heard a little bit from me, but I'll say a little bit more. Joe Anderson, favorite restaurant? I'll go with Gallo right now. I like them all. Great restaurants in Inglewood, but I've been enjoying them particularly lately. My main interest in this task force is just seeing how much my house has appreciated since I bought it. There's no way I could afford to buy my house if I was in the market right now. Now, 10, 11 years after I bought it. And that makes me wonder about my children and what the future, think about Jake being a second generation homeowner. Is that gonna happen for our kids now? I think that's a really great point. What can we do to kind of anticipate the future and make sure housing, to the best of our ability, is more affordable than we're.
Hello, I'm Steve Yates. I am on this task force. Affordable housing has always been kind of an important thing for me, even 10 years ago, because you kind of saw where it was going. I think one of the most important things is that we figure some way to work around some of these laws that are in place within the state that prevents or keeps builders from building units for sale. And it's the builder defect issues. And as a community, we need to kind of start voicing this and pushing back on it. And in order to keep our small town in a big city, we need a stable population. We need a population that's invested within our community. Not saying that renters are not, but it makes it really difficult for them to be invested in the community when they don't own anything and they can't get that next step where they're going to get ahead. Because property ownership is really, truly the first step to building your future for the vast majority of the people.
Thanks, I'm Tim Dodd, I'm the deputy city manager in Inglewood. Favorite restaurants and tough ones, like there's so many great choices. I'm not just saying this because the owner's here, but I would say Fellow Traveler. I just like the vibe there, great food and drinks. And I would also say Phosphorus is a very close runner-up. I like the small feel to it, family feel to it, and also great food. My formal why of being here is as a co-staff liaison, so it's really to support all of your work. But also, this is an area that's really passionate about and interested in for a lot of reasons. Of course, as a large employer in the city itself, this is an area that's of concern for a lot of our employees. And it also ties into a lot of the other major goals the city has, such as economic development and other facets of community well-being.
I'm Samantha first, I'm a fairly recent homeowner, so, and before that, I was a renter in Capital. And before that, I'm in Texas, so, homeownership is kind of an ideal for me, but going through that process last year and how difficult it was for a 4-year-old dual income college educated household. It was really difficult with no kids. So I don't know how other people are doing it with more challenges than me. So, and that's become increasingly clear, especially over the past 3 or 4 years. So I've always been pretty passionate about affordable housing. I've volunteered for Habitat Humanity. I've worked as an architect for years, worked with some nonprofits, but now I work in the for-profit sector for multifamily projects. So I've got my toes in a little bit of everything. But I'm rather attached to Inglewood now, so I wanted to get involved and serve somewhere. So that's what I mean.
My name's Amber. I typically go by Liaisons. Favorite restaurant, I actually have 3. Fellow Traveler, because it's amazing. Noontime plus vegan, amazing, and here. I can't pick, like, they're all few of them are amazing. My why, first and foremost, I would love to learn more. I can tell there's lots of people who know a lot about what they're talking about, because I am very passionate about equitable access to housing. I did grow up in the low-income housing, so that's been the project. Nobody in my family's ever owned a house. I don't even know what that means. Like, I've never experienced stable housing. Even currently, we rent, and each year, like, we hope, like, oh my gosh, please renew, you know. So I really wanted to, like, learn more, like, what can we do that works for, you know, everybody, not just one population of people, but what's going to serve everybody, because homeownership is one of the first steps in, like, social mobility. Social mobility is virtually like non-existent right now. The middle class is disappearing and, you know, the gap is widening and I in general have strong beliefs in land ownership as well, being that our lands are stolen anyways and land is typically a form of power. They use it to, you know, have power over the people that they want to control, the people that they don't have power. So I think, you know, homeownership is one big way to kind of level the playing field and like squeeze the pendulum.
My name is Joe Phillips. My favorite restaurant is Fellow Traveler. I own Fellow Traveler. I think that the housing crisis is the biggest issue facing our country. I think a lot of other our problems stem from that one main issue. And as an employer, I feel like I am a steward for my employees. And hearing their stories about how difficult it is for them to pay rent right now is heartbreaking, but it also then ends up affecting how much I need to pay my staff too. So it keeps snowballing to other issues. And I don't want to be in a situation where I am exploiting anybody who works under me. Very few of my staff, I have staff about 16. And I think 3 of them live in Englewood. And the main reason is the rest of them can't afford to. They would love to live in Englewood, but they're completely priced out. So, you know, I have people who live in Aurora and Arvada who have to travel all the way out here for work. And that's, you know, that leads to more issues, right? Like we want strong communities, people who live where they work. Cities should be made for people and not for cars. And if people have to commute that long to be where they want to be, it's not helping anybody. So yeah, that's where my position is.
Good evening, I'm Brad Power. I like Zomo and specifically the Boz shrimp is really good. And my why is I serve as the Director of Community Development Department for the City of Englewood. So like the council members, I'll also be an ex officio member, so I won't be voting with all of you, but me and my staff are available as resources to you as you go through your work in terms of the development pattern, the development regulations, and how Englewood goes about its physical development and change. That's why we're here.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Grothelski-Hawking, and I'm the Executive Director of Innovative Housing Concepts, which is the public housing authority for the city of Englewood, and we also serve as the housing authority for the city of Sheridan. I clearly am not eating well in Englewood because I like Santiago. That's the only place I ever go, and that's not really in Englewood, so I've got to venture out because we're right off basically Broadway and Hamden, so I've got to go to some more places clearly. My why is, like Brad, I'm an ex officio member here. I will not be voting. I am basically a subject matter expert to come provide lots of information based on the different topics we talk about. But we'll find out very quickly. I'm also very passionate about affordable housing. I absolutely love my job. I love the housing authority. I love what we do for the community. And I want to continue to grow that role so we can have equitable housing for everyone, either in rental housing or in home ownership. So I look forward to getting to know everybody and to hear the ideas and see how we as affordable housing body can actually implement some of the ideas that we've across from the city.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Lewis. I'm the city manager for the city of Englewood, and I'm with Tim co-staff liaisoning this committee. And we, along with Nancy and others in the community development department, Brad as well, are here to really, you need information, research, speakers, other subject matter experts. We're really here to help you with that. And help coordinate your logistics, et cetera, for these meetings. But also I too have
strong interest in affordable housing. I served on one of these committees in the city of Longmont 10 years ago now. It's called the Workforce Housing Task Force, and really saw a lot of good things come out of that process there. And really just want, Inglewood to be a place where everyone is welcome. When I first got here, someone said, we should be more like Cherry Hills Village. And I said, I think we should be less like Cherry Hills. Like, I want to be a place where, sure, wealthy individuals are welcome and feel like they belong. But also everybody, from someone who is unhoused, and everybody in between, feels welcome. And I think that we can be that community with the way that our neighborhoods are set up and with the, just the spirit of belonging and neighborliness that Inglewood has. So I can't wait to see all the recommendations that come out of this task force to try to make that a reality. Oh, in my restaurant, sorry. It's gotta be, all of mine have been taken, except for the one that I really, really love. If you haven't had the 72-ounce steak for two at One Barrel, so good. So One Barrel, corner of Inglewood Parkway and Broadway.
I'm gonna say my restaurants and my why me for earlier. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna say for a cocktail, Fellow Traveler, best old fashioned in town. For coffee, grow and gather, and for dinner, State Cock Cafe. That's your pretty fun. As far as the why, it means everything that everyone has already said, but some of you may have heard me say this in the past. My grandparents bought their first house in Inglewood in 1961 for $10,000. And my family started, like our family history started when they brought my mom home from the hospital to that house down on Grant. I bought my first house in Inglewood exactly 60 years later, not for $10,000, but like by a miracle that I got into the market. And the thing that's so beautiful about Inglewood to me is our diversity and our quirkiness and this weird, scrappy small town wrapped in a big city. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of the people who have lived here and the opportunity that's been available here for a long time for families like me. And if we do not protect it, then we'll lose it. And we protect it by making sure that this does not become a place where only young people can afford to live and thrive and build businesses and build families. And so putting our attention and our time and our focus into this work feels like a great place to do that work and to protect what we love about this place. So I'm going to get that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's not getting, sorry for being late, everybody. I'm Aaron Martinez. All right, favorite restaurant. I specifically the yellow curry at Zomo is like a cold evening, just perfect. Although I will tell you, I've already planned tonight after this, I'm going to go get an Irish spice bag at Fellow Traveler. So throw that out there as well. And I don't know if anybody else plans their meals ahead. I'm thinking about it. The why for me being here, I moved and bought a home in Inglewood in 2018. I've been here for, I guess that makes it almost 6 years. And I can tell because all the projects that I've been having in my house, I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't done that for 6 years, and it's adding up. But my why is really, shelter is a basic human need, and it's in our country and our economy, it is definitely a commodity, and those two things can often be are very opposed to each other. And so people need housing, they also need connection in a community to build those connections up. And so it's just an incredibly important basic human need that is important for everybody to grow and live and thrive and survive and raise a family and all of those things. The other thing around housing that I'm really passionate about is that it's been a tool for oppression and racism forever. In our systems and in our lending and in redlining and in the real estate industry. And I think it's just really important to acknowledge that and identify ways to undo and reverse all of that.
So thank you all for vulnerably sharing your why. And you've got a lot of commonalities that you might not be able to read from my chicken scratch, but you'll be able to read it in the recap later. But what I love is that everyone has this passion for community and giving everyone an opportunity to come live in this great city. no matter their station in life, right? No matter, so just creating opportunity for all. So, just real quickly, what we're gonna do, I just want to give you a sense of the agenda. So we've gone through the welcome and introductions. We're gonna go through a little bit more about the purpose and the deliverables that you'll take on. And then I also want us to like all be on the same page about like what are our ground rules, how we're going to respectfully work together and hear each other and, you know, occasionally, perhaps often disagree. So while there's commonality in your why, perhaps you will all agree on the approach, and that's okay, we'll work through that. And then we'll have a presentation on open meeting laws. And then we'll also go through what the group's expectations are, so how you want the next several months to go for you, like what do you want your themes and your topics to be inspired by that housing assessment that you'll be able to reference throughout this experience. And then we'll close it up with some reflection. Okay. So, any questions, any disagreements about people's favorite restaurants? Just kidding. Go ahead. And so as we look, you saw this in the agenda, just our goals, right? We're gonna develop some strategies to really extend from your why. And ultimately, I think, you know, Joe, you said this, which is the intention here is to learn as much as you possibly can to make the most informed decision, to make the most informed recommendation that will then go on to council. And so there's what you are going to be blessed with a lot of materials. You're going to be enlightened by a lot of background and information. And some things to consider. I'm going to plant a seed early because this is like a grounding meeting. We're just kind of level setting. But be thinking about sites throughout the city that you'd like to tour or you'd like to learn more about. So we don't have to always meet in this room like this. We can go out to different locations and be more immersive in our process of learning. And then in terms of learning to understand, I know you got a ton of pre-read already, not sure how much you've been able to read through all of that. I think the most critical one that I'll be really leaning on you or like trying to pull from you is that housing assessment policy. And then ultimately, like you've heard, this is gonna be a squeaky wheel. You're gonna be providing informed recommendations. That's what you're gonna do throughout this process. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes, please.
When it comes to, you know, certain data that it's not in this data set that's been provided, as a group, will we be able to ask those questions? If it's not readily available, will staff provide that to us in the next meeting?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Any other questions? Okay. So in terms of the intention setting, logistics, guardrails, ground rules. The logistics ultimately is like, come as you are. That's just be you and be free. But of course, we'll all want to be respectful, as I said earlier, and hold space to listen. So my role will be to help guide you as we're intently listening. My role will be to try to connect the dots. And what I'm hearing you say, sometimes you might feel like you're not saying the same thing. I might raise my hand and say, oh, actually, I hear the same thing. You're just saying it differently. In terms of other logistics, I'm going to really lean on you to share. So you'll hear from me a lot less, and we'll have opportunities where we'll do breakouts, and you'll be able to kind of rotate around in future meetings and have conversations about how we debrief some of the reading materials. But what I do want to hear from you, and we can go around the room, is how do you want to set your ground rules for how you work together, how you interact, right? So some examples and I don't want to put these on you, but some examples that I've had in previous meetings are, excited to talk. listen respectfully, right? Like, but I'm not gonna write that down unless that's one that you want to add to the list, but anyone want to share a couple ground rules as you begin working together each month as a task force? Sometimes around technology, sometimes around being present.
Well, when you say technology and being present,
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I know, exactly.
Phones on silent.
Yeah, phones on silent could be one. I mean, I know I'm looking around and we're all on our laptops, so I understand the clarifying question.
I think keeping multitasking to a minimum, I think that's just a common thing that meetings like this, we're taking notes, we're doing things, or reading or research, whatever, but keep it on topic.
Honor your voice.
I do have a question. You'd mentioned that you'll be putting a recap of what we've talked about before it gets presented to council as the final recommendation. As a group, do we have the ability to go through this and say, yes, no, maybe?
Yes. So, for example, has anybody ever done World Cafe? So it's this breakout process where, let's say that you're focusing on 4 themes. And so group 1 will start with one theme, group 2 will start with the second theme, third, fourth. And the idea is like that first round, everyone's spending about 15 to 20 minutes ideating everything they can possibly think about on that particular thing. And then you rotate. And so you have a scribe who's taking notes. You all will be taking your own notes about your conversations. And then you'll rotate and you go to the next theme, moving forward, right? And so then you'll spend maybe 10 minutes on that, and then you rotate again, maybe spend 7, and then rotate one more, and you're like, okay, everyone's exhausted the previous 3. Now that you've reached the last one, you're kind of recapping what's been presented, what's been discussed, and then spend maybe 3 to 5 minutes on that. This is your deliberation. So everything that you've put in those breakouts on that note, on those notes, or what you've shared, and we'll talk through that. That would be an example of what I recap from that conversation. So yes, we would in the end, you will always have an opportunity to give input before anything gets presented as draft.
So these topics are going to do breakouts and all that stuff on. Will we, as a group, be notified before we come what these topics are so we can be prepared?
Not only will you be notified before, I'm going to look to you to determine what you want those topics to be. Really great questions. Any others? Okay, so back to ground rules. Any others?
I mean, is there a way to politely avoid over talking? Like, I mean, I guess I mean talking over people, but maybe I also mean talking too much.
So how do you want to approach that? Do you want a time limit? Do you want to just be conscientious of when you're over talking, or do you want me to just interject?
I can be very guilty of repeating myself. So sometimes I could use an editor in real time.
I think it'd be easiest if we gave you permission to let somebody know.
So reception to being encouraged to wrap it up. Yeah. Okay. it's important to know like how you want to show up together. And so I'm just asking you, how do you want to show up and really honor the time that you're bringing to this task force? And this is where I start calling on names. Corey, in your experience, what type of ground rules you found to be helpful in previous meetings?
I like parameters that help guide conversation, so staying on topic. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
We kind of touched on like over talking there being, but I guess interruptions to other people, other speaking.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Maybe avoiding that.
Avoid interruptions. And I'll be mindful that if I catch that happening, I will have no problem saying, please hold, like, just let Sophie finish. She's on, let her finish. Yes.
I'll say, when it's a big group like this, Bob's rules works, as long as we all respect the fact that you have something to say, you ask for acknowledgement, once you have acknowledgement, make your point, move on to the next one. It just makes a nice, smooth meeting.
Yeah.
I did try to read some of the Bob's rules stuff in the PDF. Felt like I had a kind of a steep learning curve. But maybe a simplified version, or I was on a task force during COVID where we were doing it all on Zoom, and there was like so it was different, but there was some way to like click a button and raise your hand, and then I think the facilitator would put people in a queue based on that, basically.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is I will be sure to pay attention to like kind of seeing people seeming like they're wanting to say something and kind of help cue them.
Yeah, I think that was another issue that people got emotional and heated about and stuff, that task force. So I did think it was good to have a facilitator to keep a lid on things. Yeah.
Oh, probably do that. Yeah, yes,
And then,
yes, please.
I don't know if this is related, but a group as big as this, it's hard to know who's wanting to talk next. So if this is what we're using for I want to talk next, you gotta actually wait for our facilitator to, yes, because ultimately you're gonna have 4 people raise their hand. So can't have just 4 people start talking. I assume we're agreeing.
So are we agreeing that to receive acknowledgement, to be called on and heard, that we want to like just raise our hand? I'm gonna find like a fun little gadget that you guys can like.
Well, yeah, city council, we used to have these little blocks, it was green and red.
Yeah,
Flip
you
it
could like
up.
flip it up. Concept of native flowers. Yes. I think I-
They're easy over else.
It worked.
Okay, so. So I would do that. And. Five, so there. All right. You're warming up. Any others? Yes.
I would appreciate if everyone would read the material and be prepared for the meeting.
Say it again for the people.
Be prepared for the meeting.
So we can all agree to that. And I know that Nancy works really hard, so she wants to make sure that we give her enough information in advance so that you all have the materials well in advance. I believe it's roughly 2 weeks in advance of the meeting. Okay. And so if ever there's concern about not enough time to get through that, please be sure to like send it in or let us know. But we can all agree we will come prepared. This part is very important, so I'm happy to take my time until we. One of those like, don't worry, I'll wait. I'm so happy that you raised your hand. Yes.
This is more like, I kind of would like for everybody to be flexible with the lenses they look at, it's like a vague see-through response to the see-through. Because if we're only using our own lens, that's our bias to look at the picture, so I just really feel like being flexible with the lens in which we respond. Because sometimes when we respond to just our lens, our response can be very narrow, so I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that, right? Because let's be flexible with how we respond and also how we hear.
Yeah, how we listen.
And so it was very intentional in how everyone was selected to be part of this group. Bringing such a vast perspective and experience is going to be a value to this city, like tremendously valuable. And trying to learn and resolve these issues. And so there's the lived experience that everyone brings. We'll have to listen with like, okay, they're saying it from this perspective, so I'm going to hear that. But also, I'm going to be conscious of how I respond, understanding that this is my experience, it may not be someone else's. So empathy is going to be very important. Be very important throughout this process. And empathy just being like, well, I didn't live that. I hear you and I understand that that's your perspective. Okay. So be really mindful, right? You said be mindful of the lens in which you respond in here. Okay. Last one or two. Someone's like, wait, me too. Last one. Going once? Yes.
Keep an open mind.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the mic drop. Yeah, put open mind. All right, so I'll rewrite these later, so they'll be far more legible, and then I'll just make sure we always have these for every meeting. So that we're reminded of this is what we agreed to. And you know what? Something could come up when we say, wait, I need to add something to the ground rules, because something new that we've never experienced might happen. Right? All right. Now, ready for the next portion of the meeting.
And while our deputy or assistant city attorney comes up, just a reminder, there's tea, coffee, water in here, if anybody wants that. Feel free to.
How's everyone doing tonight? If you guys want to get up right now and stretch out or go get a coffee, some tea, go for it. No one? Let's all get up and stretch.
Open meetings, yes. Wanna go?
This is the real fun stuff, so.
Yeah, I might.
Feels boring.
Yeah. I used to wear a tie Monday through Thursday, but I gave it up. Really? It took a while, man. I was, it's like 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah, it's favorite.
I still do it every day.
Never know what it is. Just start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good. Yeah. People.
She said dive bar. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
I think it was one full house. At least it's on. Whatever. I mean, like 3 patties, cheese to each one. Oh, the heartbreaker layer of that. Egg on fried egg in there, hash browns. It's huge. Only reason to go in. Well, you can want games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I said it's
Oh, yeah. Well, we switched. We replaced the carrot juice with cherry juice. Samantha, well, I went straight to that.
All right, everyone, but don't go rush. So, as the slide says, my name is Renteria. I'm the assistant city attorney for the city of Inglewood. I'm here to talk about real fun stuff, open meetings and open records. Now, our open meetings law is a state law that requires state, local government bodies to discuss public business and take any formal action in like the meeting that you're doing. And that has to be open to the public. So right there is the statute, 24 states 401 and 402. There was the COML, that's usually what's abbreviated, Colorado Open Meetings Law. What constitutes a meeting? Any kind of gathering, meeting to discuss public business, whether in person, by telephone, electronically, by email, or any sort of means of communication, Zoom meetings, stuff like that. Anything that is part of the policy-making process is subject to the Colorado Open Meetings Law. Like I said, electronic communications are subject to Colorado Open Meetings Law. So if a bunch of you are on a email, watch out for a reply all, because that could be subject to the Colorado Open Meetings Law. So anytime there's conversation between a forum in which any business of the body is discussed, or any formal action may be taken is subject to the law. That includes Zoom meetings, e-meetings, if there's ever something online. If you guys ever go to like a place to congregate, like not in the room or somewhere else, that is subject to the Colorado Open Meetings Law. So if you guys decide to go on a field trip somewhere, we would have to make sure that we're in compliance with Colorado Open Meetings Law. Now, the Colorado Open Meetings Law, or the Sunshine Law, requires that notice be given to the public.
The law provides that 24 hours of notice must be given, but it's city policy to provide the agenda to post the meeting the Thursday before the meeting. So city policy requires possible notice to be posted by noon the Thursday prior to the date of the meeting, but state law requires at least 24 hours before the meeting. The notice must clearly inform any person of the place, time, date, and general purpose of the meeting, so that a regular layperson is informed of what's going on and has an opportunity to come. What does not constitute a meeting? Chance encounters. So if a meeting is considered 2 or more people, so 3 or more members, try to think, cannot talk about business unless there's been a posting in compliance with the Sunshine Network. Chance encounters.
I'm sorry, you said 2 or 3?
So 2, more than 2 members, so 3 plus.
Okay.
So 2 of you, that's okay. But anytime there's 3 or more, then you cannot discuss business unless we've been in compliance with posting the meeting and all that stuff. Chance encounters or so on social occasions, like you guys all run into each other at, what was the restaurant everyone's favorite? Fellow Travel? Fellow Travel, if you guys all show up at Fellow Travel at the same time, you cannot talk about business. Colorado Records Act, or CORE. CORE is a requirement that most public records be open for inspection to the public. And what constitutes a public record? Most writings made, maintained, or kept by the public officer or public record is considered a core public record. So what you guys are doing is considered a public record. And anyone can go to the city clerk's office and request that record. Writings are included, that includes electronic communication. So text messages discussing public matters, emails are definitely under core. If you send an email that's discussing a public matter, that is retrievable by an open record request. So it's important to take action minutes. We'll continue, I'm sure Sean heard it a lot. So take action minutes. The law requires that only the record of official action be reflected in the minutes. Uploading packet information such as your guys' agenda. It's important information be uploaded for public consumption and be posted. Usually your staff liaison handles all that stuff. If there's information provided in the meeting, handouts and stuff like that, it's important that that information be gathered by staff and stored so that we can make it disclosable to the public. And again, emails, electronic communications, if they're talking about public business, they are subject to FOIA requests. Any questions? Nothing? All right. Yeah.
So just membership here, anything that we would send electronically, even if we're not city employees, would be subject to court.
Not necessarily matters of public concern. So if you're discussing, if 2 of you are discussing business matters, if you somehow are having something to do with the task force, that could be discoverable. That could be subject to court. Not your personal stuff because you're part of the meeting.
But it's gotta be 3 people per meeting, but only between 2 people would be subject to court.
Open meetings.
Yeah.
Yes, so 2 or more, so 3 plus. And just if you all meet at a restaurant out for a cocktail, that is not considered a meeting and you cannot discuss it. Sure. So the public meetings laws ensure that the public is well informed and the public may attend, and so they can attend the meetings and they know what's going on. And court is important so that the public can ensure that whatever you guys are doing in records can be subject to their request and maybe along.
Yes, and that's only so long as we're on this task force. Like when we have our 10-year reunion, and none of us are on this task force, we can talk about any of this without worrying about
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be open, there'd be nothing. Once you're off, you're off.
Okay.
And if you're off, then you're no longer subject to those regulations. But what you did in the past, or retention, however long they were gonna,
But if we're off the task force,
10 years from now,
and we all meet, we can talk about what happened before.
yes. So 10 years from now, this ends, and you guys decide to have a reunion because it worked out.
I look forward to it. Basket all the affordable housing.
Yes.
You guys set up the reunion, then yes, have at it.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I just make it?
Oh, wait, order.
Oh, sorry.
When you say open, so people can come in while we're meeting, do they get to comment as well and interject? Like, we're meeting right here, and there's people sitting over here, are they allowed to like interject and talk? I'm curious.
So how the meeting is run, usually for boards and commissions, is up to the board and commission itself. So if you guys would like, I haven't read this one, but if you guys would like to allow public comment, the public can come in and comment. Because the decisions of the board or commission takes, yeah, public comment as well. But someone just coming in and yelling at you, no.
It was more like the public comment getting more hearing. Yeah, so, yeah.
Yes, important part of the Sunshine Act is to allow the public to come in and see the government at work. Yes, sir.
To help clarify on the Cora open records, it's only information that deals specifically with what we're doing for this committee, and only during the time that the committee is formed. Once it's no longer formed, then you can talk, do whatever you want.
Yes, if the committee ceases to exist and no longer, and you guys are no longer part of the committee, there's no official records to take anymore. Yes,
But if we all went to we all just ended up in the same Nuggets game, and we didn't talk about any of this, it's all cool.
you guys all end up the same Nuggets game, and you guys are all row, except
Yeah.
for one guy in the middle who breaks you guys all up.
Right.
You guys cannot talk. That's a social gathering that you guys hopefully didn't plan out. And no, you guys cannot talk about business at that. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Welcome, all of you. Hope your mission is successful. Before we move on to the next topic, all those who didn't get a stretch, I suggest you go take one.
I did, if I can interject, just the gentleman who came in, he was in the library, the security guard there called because he appeared to be in distress. And so Denver Fire is helping him now, so just FYI.
Thank you, that brought me comfort, honestly, to do that, it's okay. All right, now this is the last, I don't know, 30-45 minutes. Of this evolved societies, you've read through a lot of material, right? So one of the things that we're going to do over the course of these 11 to 12 months is we're going to approach this in 4 phases. They may not go precisely in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, but essentially we're trying to build off of this idea of like education. So in everything we do, there's always going to be this education happening. You've got this grounding happening, you've received a lot of material, you're going to come prepared with all the materials to be able to talk about in the breakout discussions. And then we'll be doing a lot of brainstorming. Again, that World Cafe example that I gave, that's where a lot of the brainstorming will happen. And my colleague Lena and Norvell, she'll come and she'll be part of one of the last few brainstorming sessions. And then I'll come join her for when she starts kicking off that prioritization. Then all of this deliberation over a series of sessions, probably 4 to 6. And then you'll start segueing into, all right, how do we want to prioritize all that we've discussed? What really matters, drilling down to our why. And then what are we saying our recommendations are based on all of our discussions and our brainstorm. And so back to your point you were asking earlier, that's where, Glenn is going to guide you through that phase as you're determining what you want, or what you want to agree to have your recommendations be. Okay. So one of the things that I want us to be able to do is to be able to prioritize some discussion themes for moving forward. So when we meet again in January, February, and March, I want us to start thinking about, based on that housing needs assessment. So I know you read every single page already. But as much as you were able to like digest from that housing needs assessment, were there some themes that came up for you that you'd like to most immediately jump into in January? Because that way we can come prepared to make sure that, you know, what extra material, what extra reading material we need to support that theme. How can we enhance that education piece? And as you think of those themes, I'm gonna write them down. What themes you know, come to mind, and we'll try to figure out where we start in January. Okay? The best.
Yeah, there's a major lack of units for the most at risk, 30% below AMI.
I think inventory in general is something that we need to talk about because the pace of building has kept up with the population, obviously, and so whether it's affordable or naturally created affordable housing, all of it matters.
Okay, thank you, Sharon, for that.
And I think looking at, maybe this housing needs accumulation with housing, identify where within that, maybe educating what the housing is, but also identifying where in that continuum, the city is now, there's housing.
A missing middle. There's two basically housing stocks in our city, single family houses and large apartments, and there's very little industry.
What? So I know what all these terms mean. Do we need to take a step back though and really define some of these topics as we talk about them and make sure everybody knows what it means, missing middle, 30% AMI, need to move housing? I want to make sure nobody gets lost in the discussion.
I think that's a really good point, Lindsay, and yes, we need to do that. I want to first hear from everybody what their ideas are, and then we'll go through the list, and then we'll see what kind of clarity. But I think that's a good point, because when I wrote down AMI, I thought, I wonder if everyone looked at AMI, right? So very good point, thank you. But we'll backtrack, but let's keep the flow going, and then we'll recap. Yes.
I don't really know where the city is at with enforcing STR rules, but I think that's really important.
What rules?
Short-term rental.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I also wonder if, I don't know if this is too lofty or if there was some way to disincentivize keeping a house empty. My brother lives across the street from a house that somebody bought and it just sat completely empty for like 6 months.
So vacancy rules?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yes, I think you guys have.
I think as a group, we kind of need to narrow down what is it we're wanting this to look like? What is the outcome? So as we go through this, we're working towards, or at least we're gathering the information that will help bring us towards that conclusion, or find out that it was half-baked to begin with and we need to rethink it.
So are you saying that you feel like we need to, as a group, determine our desired outcomes?
What are we looking for community to look like?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that can take many different forms, but that's a discussion as a group we really should have if we're going to recommend something.
Yes. Thank you for the clarity.
You're welcome.
Affordability. And are we looking for renters or owners? Who are we gearing this for?
I think on that topic, we need a variety of housing. We need to cover several spectrums with this goal, not just for sale, not just for rent. Supportive housing. Just all of these different things that who are we targeting to, but basically everybody. How do we fit all these niches with what we're doing? All the needs.
So Tori, is that what you were speaking to in terms of the continuum? So.
Yeah, I think the continuum provides the context to look at it. So you can take some of the information from the housing needs study and look at it in that continuum and say, okay, where is our median home price right now? Well, it's sitting at 140% of AMI. And then affordable homeownership only goes up to 80% AMI. So we have a big gap between the median and the 40% AMI. That means that's where people can't buy homes. Okay. So that might be the largest, that area might also represent the largest amount of the population that rents, something like that. So I think making those connections, it provides the context.
And since AMI has been said a second time, can you explain what AMI is?
AMI, I'm gonna make me do this. AMI is area median income. So that would be the Denver metro area. So I think it's a 5 county, I'm not entirely sure. And that's based on household size. So if you have 4 people in your household, you are at 80% AMI, you're roughly making, I think it's about $80,000, something like that, as a household.
So would that probably be helpful to have some pre-read information about giving background on AMI, right?
I also want to add for that, I want to add to like looking at the way AMI and like federal poverty levels are created and how they're not necessarily accurate when you look at where we are and our cost of living, because when I was looking at some of the tables, they're showing poverty declining for children when in fact, like, and in some of the areas, but in fact, I know it's not true based on, I'm connected with a lot of the folks in Inglewood who are the like, community liaisons, and it's actually going up, but realizing that even though we have these numbers, they are not always accurate, like saying like, oh, you're only considered, poverty level, you're like here, but realizing because of the cost of living here, because of everything, it's not really accurate. We need to realize that, like, when we're looking at like guidelines, and I think about like affordable housing, our family can't afford, like, I mean, we can't afford to buy, but we're also, qualify for it. Like we've increased our income by 4 since I obtained my, like 4 times, I obtained my master's degree, but we still can't buy,
Right.
and realizing that those, I don't even know what to call them, but those guidelines sometimes, let those we have to see beyond them and understand how they're formed, where they come from, and like the context in which we apply them within Inglewood specifically in the Denver metro area, because we know, oh my gosh, it's expensive to live here.
Right, okay, thank you.
I think it'd be good to have a review of the existing efforts in Inglewood, the existing comprehensive plans, like things that are already in place that speak to the housing and affordable. Just to make sure we all have a common awareness of what the environment is.
I was texting, it would be so much faster. Okay, yeah.
Maybe piggybacking on that a little bit, a review of the current, building code and zoning and how maybe it needs to change to allow for some of these other goals to be accomplished.
Okay. Okay. Perfect, Pat. Anyone have any other items? I'm not looking at you, Sam.
This is for, right? What we.
Well, okay. No, we're gonna actually, after in about 5 minutes, I'm gonna have us try to figure out, okay, we'll be starting. Yeah. Okay.
Can I still add to that, or is that?
Yeah, we keep adding, there's more. Sheet.
We have a lot to read, which I'm sure we've read every single page, I know that. But I think maybe identifying where we lack some knowledge, whether the group policies, stuff that covers a lot, but I also found myself with some more questions that aren't in the assessment, so just simply identifying that, what we still wish we knew in order to make recommendations. It has a lot, but there are some still questions about Inglewood specifically that I feel like I wish I knew, so just identifying those.
So I think that's a good stopping point, so glad I called it here. Because just even to Lindsay's point, like there's probably things here that not everyone knows. Like we talked about AMI, Corey, thank you for explaining continuum housing. And also touching on the missing middle. Are there any other themes that folks share?
What about the relationship between the education and people and housing? Because like that's kind of like that goes back and forth, like housing for the future, but also education for the future, with how do schools impact housing, how does the housing impact schools? That's a huge, as we know, what folks love education. So.
I think we can talk about the whole spectrum, of social determinants of health and how housing.
I'll put that on there. That's a good like umbrella. Can you elaborate on social determinants of health though?
It's just the idea that there's many aspects that contribute to not only a healthy neighborhood, but a healthy life. There's healthcare, there's education, there's access to food, there's, all of these aspects are determined to be social determinants of the healthy.
And I think if we're here to talk about affordable housing, maybe we should define what affordable actually is. And beyond the we can determine what our definition, what the definition we want.
I think
That's what I was trying to get at. Thank you for putting that into words.
I'm gonna circle this one, because I think that's gonna be a really great place to start as one of your breakouts in January, because determining you all trying to determine like everything you believe affordable housing means to you as a task force. And to be able to do that as a group is going to be important. Yeah. Yes.
I'd add transitional housing, which is maybe a little different than the purpose of the group, and finding new permanent housing solutions. But there's a lot of people in our community and a lot of people that are maybe passing through our community that need a jumping off spot that could be a transitional solution.
Do we need to get into definitions of affordable, right? So workforce housing, transitional housing.
I think that's what I meant about all the different spectrums of housing under the affordable housing umbrella.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not, this might kind of come under what you mentioned of like what exists in the city as far as, housing policy in general, but I'd like to know more about like renter protections and assistance, for, you know, eviction avoidance, that kind of thing. You know, what the actual rules of the game are, and if we can make them more favorable to renters. I've known a lot of people with just unbelievable rent increases, that kind of thing, like what are the rules in place and what can we review that? Okay. Yes.
Throughout the years, affordable housing has been a word that's just thrown out there, has so many different meanings. And the evolution of it over the past 15 years here in Inglewood, it's really, you know, the city was thinking they're doing this great project is going to be for people that, you know, weren't quite making enough to afford. So they were going to, you know, have a place where there's less money, they can save their money and they would buy a place, but all of a sudden the state moves in, change the rules, and it becomes Section 8. So I think it's really kind of important that as a group, we understand these concepts, who, you know, the players and stuff, because whatever we decide on will have multiple effects, and it may turn out in ways that we did not expect. So a good understanding of the history and what affordable housing is meaning today.
Me?
Oh, yeah, I think it'd be good to have some sort of technical discussions about what kind of mechanisms are out there to intervene in the, you know, wild vacillations of the housing market. The inclusionary housing ordinances, tax credits. I know I don't totally understand how all those work, but
Francie, can you talk about, just give us some background on inclusionary housing
Well enough, yes.
Yes.
For
just right now, yeah,
oh, like right now?
just high level, like when.
So high level for inclusionary housing ordinances is that jurisdiction puts a policy in place that when a developer comes in and builds any type of large scale housing, multifamily housing, they either have to make a certain set of those units set aside for affordable housing, a couple different definitions, how you want to do that, or they have to pay out to the jurisdiction to not make those units affordable, and then that money goes into some sort of pot that is then used to build affordable housing. So very, very high level, there's a couple different ways you can do other inclusionary zoning, but it's coming from that jurisdiction level to say, hey, we're gonna say you have to think about affordable housing when you do your development in some shape.
Jake.
yeah, I'd also be interested in looking why some of those things may have failed in the past, because I think Denver implemented IHO in 2010, and obviously housing prices in Denver went ballistic. And a lot of people are still getting displaced all the time, so kind of wondering, you know, why that may not have worked out on a meaningful scale, or on a, you know, on a sufficiently large scale.
Sam, can I see that you have your hand up?
Yeah, kind of to add to that, I would like to look deeper, educate myself more on like regionally, in Denver or in Inglewood specifically, or people call it Tri-City, that real term. Liaisons and Sheridan. What has worked, like find some success stories and also find not so success stories. Analyze those more. Because there's plenty of those on a national level. But we can look at more really specific successes, not successes, and talk about them. Because finding those and discussing those.
Coincidentally, I was in sync with you and I wrote down success failures. So thank you for co-signing what I wrote. So that's great. That's great. All right. So before, yes, of course.
I don't think I saw it as a housing assessment, but I'd be curious at how much investor activity is in the housing market.
Can you talk about why you're curious?
Yeah. Because, especially in kind of lower scale housing stock, you get investors coming in by renting. Those could be institutional investors, those could be local investors, but that then becomes a rental property, just gives the that ownership. And I know in parts of Denver, that would account for 30% sale of neighborhoods. And they have good data on that. That helps then guide the recommendations for how we will mitigate that. That was.
And can that have an influence on like the vacancy that Jake was talking about?
A lot of that data is in the report. It's there. And rental properties are pretty high in the city.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, Jake.
Well, to sort of piggyback on what he says, I think it's interesting that it was right around, almost overnight when COVID became a thing that suddenly housing prices were mushrooming and exploding. And I think it'd be good. I think a lot of that probably had to do with interest rates and incentives to invest in or even toward housing, because I just don't think that level of appreciation that quickly can be explained just by density and by demographics. And this is, a time when there's some demographic stagnation going on, and I do think a shortage of supply is part of it, but I don't think it can explain that explosion in costs so fast. I think a lot of that probably had to do with incentives to treat housing like a speculative asset. And I don't know what Englewood can do about that. It's a larger phenomenon, but maybe we can, looking at it from that lens, maybe get some ideas.
Okay. So out of respect for your time, we are going to pause on adding more themes for today. You might find in your conversations that you say, hey, we actually want to talk about that. This one idea that we thought of, we were talking about that in February, we're talking about in March. And so I'll make sure to update these running theme lists and we'll be able to keep adding to it, okay? But let's focus on, if we could, and Lindsay, do you feel like we covered the overview, like kind of giving people explanation for some of the things that we need? Okay. So I do think that for January, we're gonna want to talk about the basics, like what is affordable housing and like what we all agree that definition to be. I think that Sherry, rather, to your point, addressing that umbrella and affordable type of housing. I think that kind of marries with this. So thinking about January being like educational, what are other, I know we talked about history and rules and regulation. What are like two other themes you'd like to cover based on what we've listed? So lack of units with 30% AMI, inventory, housing needs were met. Yes, Sherry, go.
I would say inventory.
Okay. Okay, with inventory? Yep. Okay, great. One more theme.
What are we looking for our community to look like?
I think that's an important one, right? And that's how you were trying to frame us, like thinking that, hey, in order to do this, not only do we need to define it, but what do we want to do? So thank you. Okay. So those are the four that we'll focus on in January. So get ready for a little World Cafe style, because we're going to be rotating and like drilling them in that, and then I'll work with the team to make sure that we're clear on what materials we need to prep you with in advance of those conversations. And so we'll have a design meeting about what this is going to look like to focus on those four. Any questions? Yes, please.
Sorry, I didn't hear that question.
The question was, does this group have a purpose statement? And would this group like to create a purpose statement?
Please define purpose statement.
Well, I guess I could ask the question, where did this group come from?
This group came from city council, out of a discussion, knowing that we had a housing need and knowing that we wanted to engage community members to help us identify the right strategy tactics for Inglewood to deploy. But we have not written a purpose statement, council has not.
Or a goal? So the goal is to.
Solicit recommendations for how we should address our housing needs in Inglewood from a diverse group of people.
How is that sitting with you, Cory?
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions? Okay, well, we know we're gonna focus on January. Any reflections? I'm happy, we can go around the room again. We don't have to if you don't want to, but any reflections on what you're about to embark on? Got a heavy lift, and I'm so glad that you're here to do it. Who's starving and wants to go to. I know what you're eating later. What is that?
Oh, it's interesting. It's a culinary trend from Ireland. Chinese takeaway shops were trying to get more drunk Irish people to eat their food. So they decided to replace rice with fried potatoes and cover it in curry sauce because they knew that the Irish like to dip their fries in or their chips in curry sauce. So it's a mixture of Chinese, Irish, and Indian culture, all in a paper bag. It's fries. It's basically a stir fry with fries.
Potatoes, yeah. That's lovely. Well, to avoid any chance encounter, you're the only one of the person should go. All right, so that is it for today. And I'm giving you the gift of time, so I think we're gonna be 7 minutes early unless anyone wants to drag it out. No? Okay, was that helpful just to kind of get started? All right, well, I appreciate you for your time. I look forward to seeing you in January. And we'll meet again. Yeah.
Yeah, they both look out there. And